only going to get one device per family. So that's going to be a little juggling if there are families that have multiple students that need that device during that time. So recording your session gives your students an opportunity to go back and see the lesson. If they weren't able to join you live, they're able to review the tools, review the process and procedure that you gave them. Maybe it was a math lesson. They could go back and watch that. If you're live, having some time for Q&A so that that's still a normal part of your lesson. Providing time for mingling. During the beginning of our lesson, this was our mingle time when I asked our would you rather, and then having a way that they could have supports with resources or videos, or you've made a PDF or a website. Having that available for them to go back to when you're not right there with them. Maybe parents can help them navigate. Would be a great option. To model that as an opportunity for you, I have put a resource link throughout my presentation so that you will have that same option of putting in a resource link and being able to capture the things that I'm providing for you at a later time. So far, I've been doing some talking. I want to give you an opportunity to chat with me and to find out some things that you were interested in. Karen says that thanks for the Pear Deck. I think, did you get your Pear Deck straightened out and working?
Yeah, I think we got that figured out. When it took us to the Pear Deck, it demoed the check-in question, and then you would guide the students through that deck, correct?
Correct. So once you get your students your Bitly, it allows them to open up the Pear Deck and go through the session. If you are doing it live with them, then the teacher will advance the Pear Deck, the slide deck that you've created in advance. If you choose the function of them working on it independently, then they will be in control of the slide deck and they will go through the slides and still answer those same questions within their own time frame. Does that sound good? All right, so I'm going to go back to our slides. And so this is where we left off. So right now, this is a section of the slide deck that would give you an opportunity to find out, do a check-in with your students. So you could tell them, ask them, how are they feeling about their virtual lesson? So if that was something that you were going to give me an answer with today, it prompts the students to drag their dot to the feeling that they are experiencing during your presentation. And I put, if you're doing great, and then we're just going to keep on going because you're ready. If you're already feeling overwhelmed, or you need coffee and you have not had enough for today. So sometimes we have to take care of our basic needs, and I am very conscientious of that. All right, so I was thinking that we could take a few seconds, and if you have not gotten a chance to get those resources, I'm going to switch to that next slide. And while you're there, you can start to write down that bit.ly so that you would have the slide resources page, and I'm going to try to continue to make that available for you. All right, so this next slide outlines some of the features that we're going to go through today. The first one is our Pear Deck, and I have been modeling that and in showing you how we incorporate that in our lesson. So basically, you have a general slide deck that we have here, and you're going to go to your Google Chrome store and download that as an extension. And once you have that Pear Deck extension, you'll access it in your add-ons tab, and it will ask you to open your add-on in Pear Deck. And once you do that, it will start that functionality, and you're able to utilize those resources. The Pear Deck resources comes with a template library, and I really love that because not only does it have it paced out between maybe where you want to put the slides. It also has some critical thinking and some social emotional. And that social emotional tab is where I was able to kind of do a temperature check and do how are you feeling today. And once you decide on where you want to put your template, then you have lots of options in order to incorporate in there. They give you the basis for the template, and you're able to go in and change the font or add images or adjust the template however you please. And those are all in there based on how where you want to put it. So they have a beginning of the lesson, during the lesson, and an end of the lesson section. Okay. So for your Pear Deck, you would say present, and once you say present, this is the page that your students would see, and it would give them a join code, and they will be able to initiate doing that Pear Deck with you. So I initiated that with us. So if you can drag your dot to show me how you're feeling so far about our virtual learning. Once you would initiate that sequence, then everyone would see how everyone was feeling. The teacher also has a dashboard that she can go in and see how all of the responses are at a later time. If you do this feature, that is not when you're doing the session and they're doing it independently. You're still able to grasp all of their responses in that manner. Okay, the next tool that I wanted to talk about is a tool called Flipgrid. When you do a Flipgrid, it allows students to have a voice. And I am going to give you a chance to show your voice within our presentation. If you would go to it gives you a way to send the Flipgrid to your students. It's embedded in Google Classroom. So if I had you as a classroom student, you would be able to initiate it there. But I'm going to ask you to go to flipgrid.com / and then the code is 9 lowercase b 2 lowercase c lowercase e 8 7 and 9. You're also able to access that code if you were to share it with a QR code. You're able to download that and put it. Maybe you're going to send it to your parents or you're going to send it to your admin. You are able to send the code for joining in a bunch of different ways. Here's our Microsoft Teams, also in our embedded code that you can copy. So they give you multiple ways in order to send this out so that everyone can join in on the fun. For using a Flipgrid, you are able to, as the teacher, decide on your topic. On this one, we just have a say hello. When our students go in here, this would be the instructions that they would see upon opening their Flipgrid, and it would ask them to introduce themselves, share one thing or tool that you wanted to learn for today, and then I just asked you to return back to the presentation. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to initiate trying out this Flipgrid by going to this website and logging in and recording a short video and following the prompts in order to share your voice. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that, and then we are going to proceed on with our presentation. When we proceed on, then I'm going to initiate our Flipgrid so that we can see all of your responses and see how everyone, what everyone had to say and what that looks like for our students. Hello, Laura. Thank you for joining our session today. I'm hoping that you're able to go to Flipgrid and record a greeting so that we can catch up with a little bit about you.
I just dropped the link into the chat again so that that's there.
Thank you.
And I'm going to drop the link in for the Google site that you had shared so that everyone has that as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to go over to our Flipgrid, and as a teacher, you would be able to see how many students replied, and our participants are shy. I didn't get responses. So what I'm going to do is switch over to a different website so that you can see what that would look like as a teacher, because I know that you're excited about seeing the teacher version of what students would normally see. So let me do that for you because it's a really exciting thing for students to see each other as well as for the teacher to see how students are responding. So how you access it as a teacher is you'll type in flipgrid.com, and I always sign in with my Google credentials. That's how I have it set up, so I don't have to go back and forth and back and forth. So once you have all of your questions and um, in your grids, then you're able to go to different ones and let different teachers. I'm going to show you one that I did with a different PD. So this was the initiation that we had. And this is just like the one you were given. And then we had teachers that responded. So I'm going to go down and choose one. Savannah, you're able to hide your face with your picture. But when you play it,
Hi, Savannah Lemunyon. I teach 3rd grade at Whittier Elementary.
so you can set the time for how long you want students to make a video or how short, and then they're able to answer in there and you can see their responses. So I can respond back to her by giving a comment as I have in here in the comment section. You also can email them or copy the feedback link and be able to give them an answer. Within the feedback that you can also give them is there's a rubric that you can attach, and say you give this for a reading response or a comprehension response to reading, you're able to give them a score based on what they have provided for you as their verbal response. And they have two sections. One is based on the ideas they presented, and the other one is based on their performance. If you thought they did an amazing job, you could star their response so that you could recognize them. You could save their response as an exemplar video. And this is a new feature called a mixtape. If you had a lot of different responses from students that were really exemplary, you can make a mixtape of all the great responses that students had. You could also share their responses as an exemplar, and any of these platforms would be embedding a code, your Microsoft Teams, your Google Classroom, or your Remind app. So you have options for sharing and responding back to those students. So I want to go through the basics of how to set up your grid. So when you go in and you sign up for your Flipgrid account, you can use your Google credentials or sign up with your email address, and they have lots of different options. And once you go in, it's going to create a grid. You'll have one grid that you're able to start out with and give it a title. And my grids, because I teach specials classes, which is our encore, I have them based on what class I'm teaching so that I can keep up with which grade or which class I gave a grid to. But you may set it up if you're a core classroom teacher. You may set it up, maybe it's your ELA section or your math section or your reading response or even a fluency. So you're able to label out how you want to have it within there. And once you have your grid, you're still able to go within your grid. So this is my elementary for my elementary scholars, and I'm able to give them different topics that I want them to respond to. So I'm able to give subtopics within that main topic. So once you're in there, you can assign them these in the same manner by clicking share to share your whole folder with them, which is for your different section that you have put in here, or you can share just your topic that you've given them. So the options are really endless within our Flipgrid. You can share a mixtape if you have created a list of, I haven't created a mixtape yet, just because of the diversity of the things that I teach. Grid Pals is an option that Flipgrid offers. Within our Grid Pals, it lets you connect with other classrooms all over the country and throughout. So each of these pluses indicates all the places that people are using Flipgrid. And I can narrow that down to just my state, to just my city. You could also put in the grade level you would like to connect with, a subject matter you would like to connect with, and it will find a classroom that has your commonalities that you would like to connect with, like the old-fashioned pen pals. So instead of your classmates writing to each other, then they would be able to do grid recordings that they could respond to based on the categories that you have outlined. And Flipgrid will give you a suggestion of other classrooms that could be grid pals with you, and then you can just look at the qualities that they have here and be able to respond. Sometimes they have things like book authors and people that are within certain professions that you may want to connect with because you have a lesson that will be good for finding a professional that does that actual job. So that is a good way to connect with Grid Pals. Is also your Disco library. I love the Disco library because it offers me ways that I can add lessons to my grid that other teachers have submitted. It also allows you to utilize tools that you may be familiar with, like Tinker if your class does coding, or vocabulary that offers songs that are related to a skill, or Epic Books. If you are familiar with Epic Books, it has a plethora of library resources of books that your students can read, and it is also free right now. So if you chose any of these options, it would automatically give you a title or topic area that you could choose a book, and the lesson is included there, and it has the questionings that the teacher may have embedded in there with the lesson and ways that you would like for the students to respond. And it's all selected in here for you, and all you would do is choose which grid you want it to assign it to, and it would automatically add this lesson that's already in here to the grid and to your students with seamless implementation. So if I wanted to add this to my elementary scholars, then it would tell me that I have 3 topics here in there, and I can add that. And here's my topic essentials. I like to keep that title. I could extend or shorten the amount of time that I want them to record. I could add the questioning or change the questioning that I want them to respond in. Here is my text that they have for the choice. If I had other resources that I wanted to include, I could upload another attachment if you had a Google Doc or something you wanted to give them. You can allow students to reply to each other, or you may take that off. You can assign when you want to deploy this lesson to them, and you could edit the videos here that students could edit how they were submitting their videos. So you have a lot of power to change their video features and limit what you want it to allow students to have access to. And those are all in our Disco library. library. I love that Flipgrid provides these options for us so that we can practice our Flipgrids without having to initiate the cumbersome process of the learning the tool. We get to utilize the tool and learn as we go along. So this is our Flipgrid, giving all of our students a voice, even the ones that may be shy and not want to talk in front of everyone else. I love Flipgrid as an option because I think it's a great tool for students to utilize. The next tool that I'm going to talk about is Edpuzzle. During our virtual learning or even our learning when we are in classroom, we get a chance to ask questions in videos with our students possibly. And maybe they don't feel comfortable asking questions while we are talking, but we want to hear what they're saying. Oh, thanks, Karen. Mixtapes is awesome for parent-teacher nights and orientation so that you can show exemplars that you have in your back pocket. Thank you, Laura, for adding that as a comment. Would you like to voice any other if you'd like to unmute yourself? We'd love to hear any other comments that you have to say about Flipgrid. I'm anxious to hear anything that you'd like to tell us of your experiences.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we actually like using Flipgrid too for doing global collaborations because we were finding it was difficult to have collaborations with people in other countries and other places. So we were able to set it up in a way that if you use like a passcode or a student code, which is a passcode, then you don't necessarily have to use the Google or Microsoft sign in. You can kind of do a go around to make it more accessible for kids. And we've had really good success doing that, having some really universal topics where kids can work together. And that's what we really like about Flipgrid is that a lot of times we want kids, we say that we're collaborating, but really what we're doing is just putting kids in touch with each other. But by using Flipgrid, we can physically work on collaborating and come up with solutions by seeing each other. Video is such a game changer. Once kids can see each other and they can put a face with that person, then it really changes the experience.
Thank you so much. You have such a wealth of knowledge and experience with Flipgrid. It's always dynamic to hear it being utilized in such great ways that that benefit kids. So I think that's really awesome.
Thanks for doing the question.
Oh, of course. If you jump in anytime, if you have any other thoughts about that. Does anyone have any questions for Laura while she's making herself transparent? So Laura, I guess I will ask, how long have you all been using Flipgrid?
Sorry, I accidentally muted myself again. I've been using Flipgrid over 3 years. We've been to some of the events that Flipgrid has held too, so we get to see the new tools. So I was glad to see that you shared the mixtapes, which I think is such a fantastic way of organizing videos that you want kids to see. You can curate them in such a way that you can put them in the right order too. So if you see that one leads into another, you can see how the thought process goes. And parents really like to see those. And what's nice about mixtapes is that you don't need a login password or anything. You can just share that out to parents and just have it running on a screen. So when they come for back to school night, they can see the kids' voices. Let the kids tell the story. It's really powerful.
So you think this is going to be a good tool to add to our virtual learning toolkit?
Yes, and we've been using it at least once or twice a week. Kids ask for them. Once you start doing it, the kids really like doing it.
What are the age levels that are using this currently?
I actually teach a middle school classroom, so I have grade 6, but we actually host, I did a webinar on this, we host a global collaboration project that starts with Global Collaboration Week in September, and we launched that right at the beginning of our school year, which in the Northeast we start usually at the very beginning of September, the end of August. So Global Collaboration Week turns out to be usually around the third week of school. So we start that right away at the beginning, and we set it up, frame it in a way that we ask kids from kindergarten through college. We really want to get a really broad spectrum of ages that contribute to the grid. And we ask them questions like, if we want to know about the world, what questions would we ask? And so the kids brainstorm, what is school like where you are? What do you bring for lunch to school? What do you do after school? They're all very benign kind of questions, but ones that kids of any age could answer. And then what we felt was really important too is that not only do we want questions that anybody could answer, but we felt like there has to be a conversation that happens, and we have to teach kids not only how to answer something well, but then also to respond to somebody. So if you write or somebody says something, okay, so now how do we continue that conversation? What do you say to encourage more discussion about that topic? So it helps to teach other things. It helps to teach empathy. It helps to teach digital citizenship. And it also helps teach them about the world.
That's really awesome. Thank you so much. I really, I even have a greater excellent experience with it by seeing this from you. So, and I'm glad that you're able to see the benefits from K all the way through middle school. So that's really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks for letting me hijack your spot.
Oh, no, we all work together. The other tool that I wanted to show you guys is called Edpuzzle. With Edpuzzle, you're taking a video and you're able to embed questions. And so I was wanting you to see how you sign in and how it's quick and easy. For my Edpuzzle tools, I have a couple of different things that I've used. And so it has a library that you can pull from that people have already created things, or you have different things within your own content. I actually made a math instructional video using my smart tools, and I was able to do subtraction by with regrouping. And I went through the whole lesson, and then I also was able to embed questions throughout. So that's what the good thing about the tool is, that you can embed questions throughout. So I have an exemplar for them, and I'm going to kind of speed it up a little bit so you guys can see how I began to start to write on the board there. And as I'm writing on the board, I also was able to have some questions that I was asking students throughout presenting them with this math problem. So I could ask them, what was it when you were grouped? What happened to the 3? What did it become? When you subtracted the 7, how much did you have left? So I could utilize my own video, and I can utilize videos that I find on YouTube or without or wherever. So I even did a read aloud, and while I was in the read aloud, I asked them questions. And my questions are it show you your list of questions on the right hand side of there, and I asked open-ended questions, so that's why it says open-ended next to the numbers there that it's keeping track of. But you can assign this to students. It will grade it for you if you tell them the answer. This particular one has multiple choice questions. Every teardrop is a particular question. So this particular one, she's talking, it's asking them what is the plateau. They will answer if they get the wrong answer. It will tally up that. You can tell the settings if you want it to be able to skip, if you want to allow kids to skip through, or if students just need to rewatch that section, they can rewatch it and then they can answer the question. So I answered the wrong question, so it gave me no, I did not get that correct, and it gave me the correct answer there with the arrow, and then I'm able to continue on with my lesson. So I really like Edpuzzle for the content that it has accessible with YouTube videos in Khan Academy, National Geographic, and even if you just make your own video, you can upload it and put it in here. You can generate classes, so you can assign it to certain classes, you can assign it to certain students, and it also has a grade book. So you're able to put in your grades and upload your grades, attach it to Google Classroom, or have a link to it that you may be using Seesaw. So Edpuzzle has a full integration, and you can also download an extension from your Chrome web store. So I really love what Edpuzzle has as an option for our learners. Has anyone ever used Edpuzzle before? Laura has a comment. She says, "You can." She was saying that you won't let them answer the question until they can advance. You have the option of making that be a setting. So either you can force them to answer a question, or you can tell them, "No, I'm going to let you choose whether or not you answer the question." So that's a setting that you have that's available. And she says that she wished that Edpuzzle would fix it so that you can have multiple questions that are correct. It appears that you can choose more than one answer, but kids sometimes choose correct answers that they marked incorrect. So I would say play around with it. I believe that, like with all the tools that we have available right now, I've seen multiple platforms like Seesaw and Flipgrid and Google Classroom. They've made upgrades since we've even started this virtual learning tool. So Laura, I would send them a message and ask them about some of your things on your wish list, and we could see if they would make modifications to that so it would meet our needs. I know that people like Seesaw are always listening to us. We had trouble with those class codes that were usually expiring quickly, and they changed the class codes. Now they don't expire for 7 days. So that was like life changing for all the people that use Seesaw. They all were rejoicing and probably throwing confetti. So I would reach out to all of those type of companies that we have for those tools, because they want us to use them to our best ability. And I believe that those are functionalities that they would be happy to talk to us about. So the last tool that I want to mention is something called Kahoot. I'm going to show you how you get into that. I did that on purpose so that if you just browse in, you're able to log in with your teacher credentials. If you're Google or Microsoft, you're able to utilize those and get in really quickly with that. So it wants me to use my teacher login, and I forgot that I didn't do that. So I'm going to do that really quick. Okay, Kahoot It is how your kids are going to go in and play. And it's going to ask them for a code. And once they put in the code, then they're able to start to play the game. If you've been familiar with Kahoot before or not familiar with Kahoot before, it will let them play a game and you do not have to be there. So a lot of times we do Kahoots and we're familiar with doing it during class, and we're playing with each other and we can see our answers right in advance, and it's good for healthy competition, and everybody's able to rejoice. But I was able to put in a Kahoot for my students without them having to be present, and they still were able to show their knowledge and show what they're thinking. So I just selected the Discover page because I wanted you guys to see that it had a library of lessons. And within the library of lessons, I think we used the social distancing one because we used it for my science teacher and I collaborated. So if you choose one, you can edit it before you send it to your students. You can see what the answers are. You can see what other resources they have available that they've added to it. This one has a video that they gave and some slides that they have that are information that go with each question. So if you are familiar with Kahoot, you'll find that this is very practical. If you're not familiar with Kahoot, you'll find that this is very applicable to all different grade levels that you are doing. This one shows that I did give this to my students. I had 15 students that completed it. I'm able to see the results in the dashboard here. It lists their name, it tells me their percentage of accuracy and their points. And so if I wanted to go back and give them a high five, an air high five, and say how much I was proud of them for being able to complete the task, I'll be able to have their information here of how their results went. So I encourage you to try out the Kahoot. They can play. Some of my students were familiar with playing it together, and they decided that even though they were home, they were still going to play together. So they contacted each other and said, hey, we're going to play all at the same time. Get on the Kahoot. And so that's how some of my students all played together. It was magnificent that they decided to collaborate in that fashion. And I was so, so proud of them for doing that. So that's something that is an option. If you have a certain class time, you can add this to your class time of being one of the activities that you are working in. And I'm sure that the kids would enjoy all of the options of playing together or not playing together. So now it's time to give a brief statement. I was wanting to find out what you felt comfortable. If you wouldn't mind sharing that, it's time to stop something and now it's time to start. So if you want to think about that really quick, it's time to stop and it's time to start. If we have any brave people that want to unmute themselves, or maybe you would like to put that in the comments, it's time to stop and it's time to start. I'll let that marinate with you and see if that's something that you want to ponder on. So my next slide says, engaging in a virtual learning, we're going to use 3 easy steps. Right now, we're going to embrace our new normal. There's a lot about what we're doing every day that is different. So we're going to embrace our new normal. I want you to choose one new thing and get really good at that. You're going to receive a lot of training, a lot of information, a lot of different tools, and it can be really overwhelming. So I want you to choose one thing and think about getting really good at that one thing before you incorporate other things into your plethora of resources. And once you're really good at your one thing, you're ready for your next challenge. And so I would encourage you to reach out to me or whoever is supporting your learning to follow up and give you support with either the Pear Deck, the Flipgrid, the Edpuzzle, or the Kahoot. I'm wondering if you would feel comfortable with one of these tools already. I'm going to say that because we had someone that was Laura was so forthcoming with her experience with using Flipgrid that she's already a pro at it and she's ready to try something new. Less is always more when you are working in doing something new like this that we're doing. So I would challenge you to try one thing and having that be the thing that you are going to be working towards. Planning your lessons, short ones I think will be more bang for your buck if you're doing subject area lessons. So between 7 and 15 minutes, you can have one of these engagements there, recording it for future looking at for your viewing of your students or yourself, having Q&A time for your students, or a place that they can reach out to you. Maybe they're texting you on your Meet page, your Google Voice, they're emailing you so that they know where to get in contact with you. Providing a time for mingling because they miss each other and they want to see each other. Hopefully you have a visual platform that they can do that, maybe a Zoom or you're going to do Flipgrid. and then providing them with extra resources and supports. Again, there's that bit.ly that I had there available so that you could reach out to me and have resources for me. I really appreciate everything that you are going to be doing and transforming your learning. And what do you think about all of this virtual learning and how your virtual learning plan would be? Once you go over to my resource page, it will lead you to a distance learning feedback. So if you wouldn't mind giving feedback, I would be glad to send you other resources that I have available. And as they come by, if you have questions, comments, concerns, want some of my lessons and tools of how I've integrated them, I can send you all of that on this bit.ly, on this resource page. So if you are wanting to get those things, that is available. And you also can reach out to me on my website. I've updated my website to include lots of tips and bits, some of this of what we discussed, some of what we have not. If you want to do interactive web pages, I have tools for that. So it's includes some things that I didn't talk about. It also includes some presentations that you could use for yourself or with your students. So I wanted to make sure that I made myself available to you. Give yourself an air high five for being online in your classroom. And I want to thank you for participating with us today. And I'll still have that up. If you have more questions, comments, concerns, we are here for you. And thank you so much for joining us for our engaging in virtual learning. Have a great
Thank
day.
you, Erica. If there are any questions for Erica, please be sure to ask them now.